Good evening, folks. I say good evening, folks. Nobody's here yet. I started the stream literally, what is it, 9 seconds ago. I had a bit of a, I was confused. Not a bit of a, I was confused for a minute because when I started up the stream, I had seen that Twitch had done an update, and when it started up, I saw nothing. Everything was blacked out, and I went, uh-oh. Did the update blow away all my settings, which isn't a big deal. I have everything stored in a manner where I could easily get it back. Reassemble the backgrounds like you're seeing here, because I don't have anything too complex. I will probably, and I don't know how fast this is going to happen, but I came up in my head with a concept for how to update the opening animation thing where it says Joe draws stuff, because I've never really been entirely happy with that, and I think I have figured out what I want to do with that. So I don't know how fast that'll happen though. So I don't want to overcommit to anything, but I think I've got an idea. Um, so anyway, I came in and everything. I started the stream up, and everything was blacked out, and I went, uh-oh. But what had happened was I had done a little bit of maintenance cleanup on my actual computer to organize things, because I just didn't have it very organized, and that irritates me. So I put things in actual folders with names and everything, and of course when I did that, all the references that Twitch had broke. So I just had to it was, again, I have things pretty well labeled, amazingly, in this case. So it was not really difficult to put everything back. It was just a bit of a process, because I went, what happened? And then I figured it out. So that took about 2 minutes. So that's why I'm a little bit later than I expected to be. In any event, good evening. It is a Wednesday. I did not stream yesterday because I was Actually, let me get a drink of water, and then I will fill you in on what I did yesterday and why I did not stream yesterday, because it's actually pretty exciting news, at least in my opinion, and possibly yours. So give me a second. Oh man, I ate salty stuff for dinner, so water tastes twice as good as it normally does. It normally tastes pretty good. So normally, anybody who pays attention probably knows that I generally stream on Tuesdays. And then, but I've had something that has been kind of in the back. One of these things where I was waiting for a date and time type of thing. But I've been waiting to do for a while a podcast with Michael Fisher, who most people would probably know. Actually, he's been using his actual name more, so I think he's starting to kind of make that more prominent, because he used to go primarily by the Mr. Mobile. Now I notice he's using, I meant to ask him about this and I forgot, but I think he's now using his name more, which is, smart. Kind of the same thing that I did. I didn't ever really have my name on anything for a while, but it's hard to have people contact you and that type of thing. And if you want work that way, then you have to kind of use your name. I think he's doing something similar in that vein. But anyway, he's probably one of the biggest Star Trek people in terms of fandom that I know. Now, I like Star Trek, don't get me wrong. I do like it. I like it a lot. But I'm not completely steeped in it as far as somebody like him. And so, in my interactions with him, I got the sense, which was in fact confirmed when I talked to him last night, that, some of the recent Trek stuff was disappointing, would be the nice way to say it. But then Strange New Worlds came along, the series, and I knew that I absolutely loved it, and I was pretty sure that he did as well. And when he confirmed that he did, I said, well, let's do a show on this. Let's talk about this, because I don't. Lando is great to talk about things, but often I'm basically describing something to him. I'm not having a dialogue about it. You know what I mean? It's because he doesn't watch the stuff. So it's which is fine most of the time, because I'm very happy to describe weird, wacky movies and kind of do the plots and act it out almost audibly. But with the Trek thing, I really wanted to kind of talk to somebody and get somebody's perspective on it. And so we were able to actually do that show last night. And his schedule is exceptionally tight because he does a lot of traveling. The work that he does, the stuff that he covers, he's always going here, there, somewhere else. And so, I understand and respect people's time. And so I know that it's tough for him to get a block of time, but it just happened to work out that he actually had enough time that we were able to do 2 segments, 2 shows, 2 about 45-minute or so episodes. And so that's why I didn't stream last night, because he said, hey, can you do it this night? And I said, man, I'll make it work whenever you can make it work, because it's a lot easier for me to do this stuff whenever I want than it is for you. So we got that episode done. It was an absolute joy to do. Michael is just a fantastic person to talk to. And his enthusiasm in Star Trek and for science fiction in general is great. And so we got those segments recorded. And honestly, they were such a fun time. They were such a legitimately fun time that I didn't even want to wait on them. So the first part will be coming out tomorrow, and then part 2. So part 1 is not Star Trek. Part 1 is kind of is what I would just call our, shooting the breeze section, where we're just kind of talking about different things, which is still fun and a lot of fun. In fact, that block of time went by really fast for me anyway. And then the second part, which will be out on Monday, so that would be the 26th, 22nd, 23rd, 24th. Yeah, I believe it's 26th, Monday the 26th. That will be the second part, which will be the Star Trek. That's the entire thing. It's all Star Trek. So that was why I did not stream last night. But that's one of those times where I'm like, I don't mind not doing a stream, because that's something that's a rarity. I think the last show I did with him was 4 years ago. It was March of 2018. I just happened to look because I was looking up notes from the last show. And yeah, March of 2018. So it's been a long time, and I've been looking forward to this because Strange New Worlds is such a good show, and I really wanted. That was the other part, is okay, we can actually talk about Star Trek, modern Star Trek, and it's actually an exciting and positive review. So yes, very, very happy about that. So all right, I've been talking now for a while. Let's start this thing up. Here we go with my. You know what? I forgot to reload the animation. So, okay, forget it. Never mind about that. Let's just jump in. I forgot to do that one. I did the other 2 scenes. I forgot that one. So, as usual, we're off to a stellar start. Now, I was looking at the skull before I actually launched the stream, and I realized that I don't think I like the little lines. I don't think I like these lines, those lines. So I think I'm trying to work out what I want to do. I don't know exactly what I want the solution to be, but I know that I don't want it to be that. I think I'm going to leave that layer. I mean, I'm somewhat tempted to finish these. I should finish these lines out and see if I actually still don't like them. I don't think I'm going to like them, but I mean, it's fine. It's not a big deal. Sometimes that's how it goes with artwork. You do something, and that's why it is, I think, vital at times to step away from your work and look at it. So I'm going to finish these lines, but I don't know if I really like them. I definitely like the skull without them. This right here at a base level, I like this. This is good. I was very excited about it. I still am. What I might actually do is these lines in here, I had the thought not to do black line. I think that's the same weight, yes? Oh, sorry. Let me get to that. Which one is that? That is rings. Here we go. Let me just check that size. No, it's actually smaller. Okay. I had the thought that instead of just doing, because I was like, oh, I should, the dark areas, I could do rings everywhere. But then it's just black rings all over the place. But if I do a darker color, so if I actually sample this color, because that's a darker area, and I think this is probably a 3. That's probably the line size is a 3. Yeah, that's what it looks like. And so do the rings around these in that color. I would have to create a new layer. So let me create a 4th layer here. Okay. So doing this, which don't get me wrong, it's going to take a little bit because I have to go around a large area. And I'm trying to do it. Ugh, yeah. I may actually have to do these lines in parts because that's a big area to try to go around. But I'm kind of thinking that maybe the rings and then leaving the what I'll call the white area, this, without anything might actually look better. So we're gonna try that because I have a hunch that maybe that's gonna look better. Let's start with a small area and just see how that looks. Is that? Let me make sure I'm on the right layer. Am I above the blacks? Why is it? Oh, I know why. That's why. So I have to go all the way down because I want this to sit behind these things. So let me go down here. Okay. Because I want to be able to do like that and just see what this looks like. I don't know. I liked the lines. I remember liking the broken up lines when I was doing them. But then when I came back and opened this up, I don't know. They didn't quite work for me anymore. So I'm going to try this and see how I like it. See if I like it better. So yeah, I got to do that show yesterday. And so if anybody who is listening is a Star Trek fan, I mean, certainly listen to tomorrow's episode as well because I think it's very good. But the Star Trek episode or the Star Trek centered episode is going to be on Monday. And I would encourage you, if you have not watched, you know what? I meant to try something. That doesn't matter. It doesn't really matter. Let me just put this down. Okay, there we go. I would encourage people, if you have not seen Strange New Worlds, to watch it. Let me just see. There's a little white area there because it is really good. I was extremely happy at how much I liked that show because I really was let down by the other new Trek stuff. It just Discovery started off really well, and then just got lost along the way, and kind of just not that it got. And I'll give you a little bit of a preview of what Michael says in terms of Discovery, but not too much. He described it as having very, very severe peaks and valleys. You know, where he would go from an episode that he thought was exceptionally well done to then an episode that was a big letdown. And I know what he means because I get that entirely and do not disagree. But it was even more than that. It just kind of... I think when you have these shows that do big, long storylines, which is what Discovery was doing, I assume is still doing, I really don't know because I haven't watched it since season 3 about. But when you do these big, long storylines, serialized storytelling, as opposed to episodic storytelling, where it's, okay, the episode this week doesn't really matter in next week's episode. When you do too much of that serial... Because that, at least as far as I could tell, Discovery was doing that every season. So every season was a big, overarching mystery that dominated most of the show. So you couldn't really tune in episode, say, 6, and be able to know what was really going on. You would have missed a lot of things. Whereas it depends. Deep Space Nine had long-form storytelling. The Dominion, for example, are brought in at least in name and then in reputation and finally in actual physical form. Right in season 1. They are, in fact, mentioned, or maybe it was season... No, I think it was season 1. I think in season 1 the name comes up. You don't ever see them, but the name is brought up. And so you're at least aware of them. Now, at first they sort of come off as a fairy tale, like a scary criminal fairy tale, to the point where you might actually be forgiven for thinking that they're not actually real, that it's going to turn out to be some kind of fake out, which is actually a neat idea. But no, in fact, the Dominion is extraordinarily real and a terrifying force for the Federation. Sorry, by the way, if you have absolutely no interest in Star Trek, because I'm talking about Star Trek, and that will be utterly boring to you if you don't care. That is the gray. Yeah, that's the gray. Yeah, see, I kind of like that gray. I think that's working. So we're gonna roll with that for a bit. So in any event, DS9 did have that, but that was also in season 3, 4 is when that was really kicking into high gear. So you'd already had a long amount of time that was episodic, where, you know, the episodes were focused on maybe one character, 2 characters, and their interactions. And there were background things. For example, the Bajorans, which were the species... The planet that the station Deep Space Nine... I'm going to have to do this in parts. There's no way I can do this in one shot. There's just no way. It's too much. Ugh, I don't like that though. That rippled. See, that's the only problem with doing it like this. In parts is you get these joints, which I do not enjoy. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to do what I normally do, and I'm going to do it like this with a gap, and I can seal the gap later, because otherwise this is just not as fun to do. So the Bajoran story was always there, and you knew that the Cardassians had occupied, and of course that was a Holocaust metaphor. Not even much of a metaphor, because I mean they basically were doing Holocaust stories. The Holocaust, I mean, not just a generic Holocaust, but it was definitely supposed to be a mirror for the actual Holocaust. And so that stuff was always there. And in fact, there is a background story that is set up from essentially the very first episode, which is, and sorry if I'm spoiling a TV show from the 90s here, but I'm going to, the idea that Sisko would eventually become a god, that he would become one of the Bajoran gods. That's right there in the beginning. I mean, it's right there. It's not even sort of hinted at. It's basically, I mean, they don't come out and say, "Hey, you're going to be a god, Sisko," but the pathway to that final result is clearly there. So there is an overall longer storyline in Deep Space Nine. However, you would also have episodes like the Q episode and others that were just one-off episodes that did not have to connect, almost like what X-Files also did a lot of, where, and it's very interesting to me how X-Files lands with people, because a lot of people do not like the mythology, what they call the mythology episodes, and that's the stuff, if you never watched the X-Files, and you probably know it from pop culture, basically osmosis at this point. But the X-Files was a show about a pair of FBI agents who were sent to investigate strange occurrences. And the series itself, and it was Fox Mulder and Dana Scully were the agents. And essentially, the show broke down into two different types of episodes. One, which was focused around extraterrestrials, aliens. Those are considered the mythology episodes. And then the other episodes were what are called Monster of the Week episodes, or bottle episodes, to use the Star Trek term for... Oops, why did that go away? To use the Star Trek term for it, there were the bottle episodes. And those were, okay, they go off to a farm one week and they find that, there's a monster living out there, and that's it. It doesn't have anything to do with the larger kind of... Because essentially it's the alien stuff is government conspiracy type of stuff. It's that the government, or at least factions or parties within the government, are colluding with the extraterrestrials in exchange for being protected from their colonization plans. Now that changes a little bit when the show gets further in, but that's the initial setup, is this idea that at some point alien beings are going to come to Earth and sort of take over. And these people in the government who are assisting them are basically going to be protected from it. And that's the basic framework of the show. Except for the bottle episodes. The bottle episodes only really, in most cases, take place within that episode. And then once the episode is over, there is no more to that story. Now, once in a while, one of those creatures might pop back up. Famously, Tooms returns, Pusher comes back. So those bottle episodes don't necessarily only ever exist in those episodes. They do show up in some way, but they are at least generally unconnected with the mythology episodes. And that's the interesting part about that, is there is a real divide in fans. People who, so you put two people in a room, I'm using this example. So if you put these two people in a room, both of them, if you say, hey, do you love the X-Files? Yes, we love the X-Files. Do you think Mulder and Scully are great characters? Oh, yeah, they're great. Their chemistry is what makes the show work. It's a fantastic show. But then you say, well, what were your favorite types of episodes, mythology or Monster of the Week? And you will very often get differing opinions on that. There are people who really enjoy those I'm one of them. I like the mythology stuff. I really do. I like the alien stuff. But there are a lot of people who feel like that was the less interesting thing. And don't get me wrong. Do not misunderstand for one moment. There were some of the best episodes of the show were, in fact, not mythology episodes. But I would argue some of the best episodes were. And that's because the show really excelled at different things, depending on who was writing and what they were writing exactly. The show, in a rare thing anymore, was able to really be two shows that were simultaneously successful. One being the kind of the bigger narrative. Excuse me, I'm going to get a drink really quick. Oh boy, that's good. So the mythology stuff, the bigger, bump the screen. The mythology episodes with the alien stuff, and then the Monster of the Week episodes. And I really feel like rewatch, because we're in the middle of rewatching it. We just finished the movie, so now we're about to start season 6, and the later seasons are where things start to get a little bit more spotty in terms of quality. But that's not an unusual situation in television. But in any event, so far that has borne out in the rewatch, because it's been a while since I've watched it front to back like this. I would, there's lots of shows, and X-Files is one of them, where once in a while I'll just feel like watching an episode of it, so I'll just pop it on and watch it. And X-Files, that and there too, I often find myself going to the two-parters for the alien stuff, because I feel like the cliffhangers are really good. I always really like the way that they, there's always a dramatic event, and this is the first time my wife has really watched it. Her familiarity was entirely its presence in pop culture, but not having watched it. And her reactions at some of the cliffhangers really, to me, tell me that the show has the staying power, because if it was only a product of its time, because there are shows like that, there's things that you realize later, the reason this was at least partially popular was, some of that was because it was just something at the time. There was a pop culture zeitgeist that was happening, and that's why this thing landed the way it did. Oops, sorry. I'm bumping things here. What did I just hit? Oh, that's it. Right, I'm going to turn my keyboard off because I keep bumping it. Sorry. My fault. But X-Files, as I said, because my wife has no attachment to it. I mean, really, she'd never really watched it. She may have seen an episode here or there because it was on at someone's house or something, but it never really been a fan the way certainly I was. Her reactions and her investment in it tells me, oh yeah, this works. This works because somebody who wasn't a fan at the time is still reacting to it in a sincere way. So that is kind of my test with certain things, is my wife, because she's not into a lot of the same things I am. She's not as much into science fiction, at least not the hardcore science fiction. Probably probably the most pure science fiction, where it's really kind of heavy science fiction, that she's been into was that German series Dark, the Netflix one. We both really liked that, but there were times in that where I could tell that they were, because that's a lot of, and this is not really a spoiler because they reveal this pretty early on, but some of the time travel mechanics in that show are, they are tough to keep track of. Not Primer tough. And of course, most people will know Primer is sort of one of the gold standards of, wow, I'm going to need a spreadsheet to keep track of what's going on here. But close. There are actually websites for Dark that are tracking many elements of it, because it can get to be a lot. In particular, because one thing that I never really thought about, it never really occurred to me as an actual storytelling device, I guess I would say, is when you have actors cast, because in some, there's shows with time travel, there's very often the thing where there's a younger version of either a main character or a secondary character, and, a lot of times they try to cast people who look similar, and there's instances where they do a pretty good job of that, and instances where the actor cast for the younger version looks absolutely nothing like the older one. But what's interesting is, with Dark in particular, there's such good casting on the younger and older people, to the point where I really started to think they all had to be related, because there is such a similarity in many of them. Sorry if you heard my phone going off in the background there. Let me just check that really quick and make sure it's nothing I care about. There was such a really, just bafflingly accurate. Again, where I was sure, I was very sure that it had to be that there was a relation involved. You know what I mean? But there wasn't. And so the thing is, though, when you have people that look that similar, it actually can get confusing, because you start to, you start seeing the older version as well. I don't know. I'm not going to explain it properly, probably, but it did occur to it occurred to me that sometimes casting somebody who looks different, notably different, might not be the worst thing because it makes it easier for your mind to kind of file who's in what time period, as opposed to people who look so similar that you start to kind of blend everything together. I don't know if that's ever actually done. That may not be any kind of consideration at all. I may be just reading far too much into simple things, which is often the case. But that was something that occurred to me. I went, I wonder if that's something that is intentionally thought about, because I don't know if it is or not, but it would be interesting if it was. I'm sorry, my eyelash is got something caught in it, and I keep seeing it, so I think I got it. Okay. Yeah, I got it. Okay. That was really bugging me because I was getting like a double image of something. So yeah, that show was really good, but yeah, it's interesting. The X-Files thing is interesting, that there is a pretty, I don't know if it's 50-50 necessarily, but there does appear to be a pretty healthy divide between people who like the mythology stuff and people who like the Monster of the Week stuff. And I just find it really fascinating. It's very interesting to me. I thought I got this thing off my eyelash, but I didn't. I can see it again. Sorry, just bear with me one moment. By the way, I probably will do a stream. I may do earlier streams tomorrow. Okay, I think I got it this time. Tomorrow and Friday, we will see. Tomorrow, that'll probably be a shorter one because I'm actually doing 2 shows tomorrow. I've got to do 2 podcasts. One is I'll be appearing on the Chwit.tv network is doing like a fireside chat with some of their Chwit Plus members. So I got invited onto that one. That one's going to be fairly early. I think that one is, I know it is. It's at 9 a.m. So that one probably, I don't know how long those have been lasting, but I would guess it won't be more than 2 hours. And then I'm doing a show with Audie Sorley from Digital Foundry and Limited Run Games. That will be a late night that will come out probably for October. That's what I would guess, is that I'll be aiming for October with that one. Let me just... I kind of like these lines in the dark gray areas, and I like the fact that they're not just black. I might actually lighten them more. I'm wondering if I should lighten them more. Let me just see something. I don't know. Maybe not. You know what? Let's just stick with what we got. Let's not... I can always do that later, so I don't want to get too far ahead of myself. Let's just concentrate on getting some of these done. So, yeah. So I will probably do some streaming. I'm trying to remember. Am I doing a show on Friday? I don't think I actually am. I think Friday I will probably do a couple of streams as well. I have to do some movie watching because I believe this weekend we will be filming. I almost said taping. It's funny. It's such a, nobody tapes anything anymore. At least most people don't. Certainly we won't be, but I'm going to be doing another episode. Recording is still correct. Recording another episode, I believe, this weekend with Len Kabaczynski for our Horror 2B tournament series. So I'll probably be doing some movie watching in the next few days. Some probably not really good movie watching, just based on the 2 titles that are in the mix. One is called Shark of the Corn, which looks like it's just going to be an awful time, but, you bear with these things. It's okay. It's the nature of the beast. Nature of the beast. And also, the fact that I can't see the seam on that other one means I did a pretty good job. Okay. What's the other one? Killer Sofa. Killer Sofa, I hope is good. I hope it's good in a bad way or a funny way. I really do. Because that one, I just kind of like the premise of Killer Sofa. But I'm steeling myself for that also to probably be pretty bad. We'll see. Can't really complain. Because out of the tournament so far, we've found at least one legitimately very good movie. One movie that is okay and probably worth seeing. And one that has such a... it's so hard to come up with the right phrase for it. Such a dementedly off-kilter lead performance that it becomes riveting. It's not good, don't get me wrong. The actual movie itself is perfectly serviceable, but the the lead actor. Oh, this guy. And that one's called Monday at 11:01 a.m. And whew, it is very hard to. I would not blame people for not believing how bad the performance truly is. It's so. And bad because you just have to sit there and say to yourself, because, look, I don't make movies. Len does. And I could find this out from him. But I'm pretty sure that most directors, even on lower budget stuff, even on non-Spielberg productions, non-Ridley Scott things, I'm pretty sure they still review the footage that they're shooting to, make sure that it is in focus and, looks okay. What they call dailies in many cases, which is just reviewing the daily footage. And you have to, at some point, sit there. And again, the movie itself, outside of the performance, it's very familiar. It's not really breaking any new ground. I'm not necessarily even criticizing that. I don't really care. You can do familiar stories in new and interesting ways, or at the very least entertaining ways. And I think that the movie at least is trying to do that. But you look at this lead actor and how bizarre and just not fitting to the rest of the movie his performance is. And it's really just, it becomes captivating. I don't know what other word there is for it. Where you're sitting there and you're watching it going, the kind of the classic train wreck analogy. It's a train wreck that you can't look away from. It's really just fascinating. Because again, to me, and I guess maybe there's a level of, what's the word for it? What's that word? Not delusional, but self-aggrandizing, I guess would be the right term. There's another term that I'm of course blanking on, but in other words, maybe it is purely ego that this individual truly thought he was doing a great performance. I guess it's possible. There is almost no other explanation to how you'd be able to look at, because again, I would just assume that they were reviewing the footage. So either he was in charge, this person was in charge, and could not see the failures in the performance, and I don't know how else you would describe them, or I think this person was a producer on the film. So maybe other people saw it and just went, well, he's the producer and I believe the writer. We'd better just let him think he's doing a good job. But, hey, Faint Waves, how you doing, man? Thank you. I appreciate that. I really do. I noticed you said that you've been silent on social media. I happen to see that you posted that thing about the the tour getting canceled. Everything all right, or you're just taking a break from social media, which I don't blame anybody for, because I know a number of people who've done it. But hopefully everything's okay. And actually, don't, if there's something going on, you don't have to publicize it here. But hopefully everything is all right, and it's just I need a break from this Twitter thing for a while. But yeah, this guy's performance, it's worth seeing. It is absolutely worth seeing it, because it's so ill-informed that this person did it. You know what I mean? You just sit there and go, did you not look? It would be like somebody putting on clown makeup when they were going to a funeral. And you just sit there and go, did you not look in a mirror? I mean, there was a mirror somewhere, right? You had to have looked in one. Had to have. It's that type of thing. But again, it makes it where I want people to see it, because you don't normally, there are those rare examples, and they exist, don't get me wrong. They are around in low budget and, low grade cinema or independent cinema. There's a lot of that because, maybe there's no better talent available, or you ran out of money, or there was something that happened. And so there's bad acting, obviously. There's bad acting in huge multi-million-dollar films. There is. But there is something that is unique and remarkable about somebody who was so far beyond even, bad acting, and just to the point where you're sitting there going, if you were looking at the footage, if you saw the fact that the way you were reacting is so far outside of how everybody around you, because the other people in the movie, yeah, fine, I stepped away from Sosa, stop using music for the time being. Man, I hear you. I understand that. I think that's actually pretty common. I've seen similar. I mean, I had that for a while with art. No, I just wanted to make sure you're all right. Yeah, no problem. I had that with art. I've talked about that. That there was a stint there where I wasn't drawing anything. I was so, and this isn't really losing passion, but I was just disillusioned. Though it's the same thing. I was so, and I don't even know necessarily how to term it properly, but I was so, I guess disillusioned is the word. With the, oh, I saw it. Let me grab that. I happen to see it cut out on me there, so I guess I haven't fixed that problem. But nice they tried to, or update something. Yeah, I got to that point. I got to that point where I just went, you know what? Why am I drawing? What's the point? What am I doing? What is the effort getting me? Yes, it's fun here and there to make something, but it really just became somewhat crushing to not have any result from it. And that went on for a while. I mean, there was a good long stretch there where I was only doing small stuff here and there. But I really wasn't doing, certainly not like what I'm doing now, where I'm really endeavoring and having a good time. It's like, no, exercise that creative gene, because you might get something like the Beatnik Bird. You know, you never know. Or the magic thing. I mean, that honestly was purely out of nowhere. It was just an accidental, I mean, not accidental, somebody approached me, but it was not something that I really even thought I could do, because magic artists tend to be very, what I would call more classic artists in many cases. Although I did see they have some kind of what looks like humorous game. I can't remember what it's called, but I looked at it and I went, you know what? I should see if they want me to do some of those cards, because they're very cartoony and they're humorous. But honestly, I never would have considered myself somebody who could do magic cards, because so much of that is kind of classic fantasy art. I'm not a big fantasy guy. I'm really not. I don't like fantasy stuff in general, ordinarily. And I don't do painter. I do this stuff. This is cartoony. This is not realistic. I mean, yeah, it's based on a skull, but it certainly wouldn't fool anybody to be a still life or anything. It's clearly not. So it wouldn't even have occurred to me of all the things that if somebody had said, oh, maybe somebody will approach you for X, Y, Z, I doubt it would even have occurred to me that magic would be one of those groups. I would think it would be some kind of publication, a web comic, maybe a musician for a certain type of album, that type of thing. But magic cards? No, never. Never. If you told me to name 100 companies, I doubt I would have said magic. It would not have even occurred to me that my art could work in that space. So that possibility, even as a long shot, would not have been in my mind. So it really, and the fact I've just gotten messages, really beautiful, wonderful messages from people over the last couple weeks. Never, ever in my entire life have I had that experience where people are because the one card, Sheoldred, number one, she's a very powerful card, which I didn't know that. I had no idea. I'd never heard of the character. Again, I don't play Magic. So my familiarity was zero. But the art director said, well, I'm going to give you the scary characters. I want to give you the horror-based ones. And I'm like, hey, I can do that. You want some terror? I can give you terror because, I can do that stuff. I can do it all, really. And I'm saying that in the sense of there's no type of subject I won't do. I'm not pretending that I can actually do all types of artwork. Please do not misunderstand that as some kind of arrogance. But in other words, I don't have a problem if they had asked me to do some kind of priest, which they sort of did. It was an evil priest, but a religious character or, whether it was a dwarf or an orc or whatever, I don't care. I'll do it all. As far as I'm not going to tell you, oh, I don't really like that. Oh, I'd prefer not to do a character. No, whatever. I don't care. But I said, sure, I can do, you want to give me the more horror-based characters? I'll do that. Why not? And it just worked out. So it's real. I still really don't even, it's very still weird to me that that's actually something that's happened. because I just got accustomed to not really ever being able to see my art in a place where other people would see it, and certainly not on something like Magic, which has a very, I missed a little spot there, a very serious following. And, like, you can buy my artwork on a playmat, an official Magic playmat. In fact, I bought one because I figured, you know what? At some point, they're going to stop selling these. So I'm buying one so I can be able to say, look, my art was on a playmat. Even if I never use it, I don't care. I want it. So I'm buying merchandise with my artwork on it. There's something I've never said before in my life. I mean, outside of stuff that I've made, shirts that I've designed, that I'm the only one who's buying them, that kind of thing. But to potentially be able to walk into, I should do that. I should see if people play around here and actually just stop in and see, if the card is actually in the wild. I've actually managed to pull 3 of them. This is also the first time in my life I've ever bought Magic cards. And I managed to get 3 of my own card, which is pretty great. Because again, I'm opening this thing and I've seen a couple videos where people have opened them and they seem to be excited about it. Not only because of the artwork, but also because I know it's a powerful card. So I'm not completely delusional. I know that there's also an aspect of they gave me a powerful card. And that also is borne out by the fact that I think I saw one, because I did 3 cards, and I think I saw one pack opening video where they got one of the other cards, and they kind of looked at it for a second and kept going. So, I'm not pretending that it's all the artwork. It's also the fact that it's apparently a powerful card. So I've been told by people who play Magic. I'm relying on their expertise, because I certainly wouldn't know the difference between X card and Y card. They're all, it's all Magic stuff to me, which is basically at this point sorcery, because I don't know anything about it. But yeah, it's pretty. I have no complaints, and on top of it being that the company was actually really great to deal with, because I really didn't know how it was going to be. Most people, if you were, and I think this goes probably for any medium where you can be approached for something, a project, there's lots of horror stories. Not about Magic, or Wizards of the Coast, I should say, that's the company. But just in general, when it comes to commissioned pieces and artwork, I've heard very bad things. So I was dreading that this was going to be something where they tried to lowball me, or they, tried to make a bunch of changes and wouldn't pay me. Nothing. I mean, nothing that I can really say negative about it at all. Not with any seriousness. I mean, the worst part about it was I couldn't talk about it for a long time because I was under an NDA. Because, they were trying, and I honored it. I'm not going to screw around with that, because, at some point I'd like to be remembered as somebody who was good to work with and maybe potentially get more work. I don't know if it'll ever happen. I've kind of, I've gotten my mind into the place where if this is the only thing that ever happens, it's still a great thing that happened, and it may be the only time I ever do this kind of work. But you know what? It happened. I did it. So I'm just enjoying that. Okay, so I like this rings thing. I've liked the rings since I did them in the dark area there, and I'm still liking them. So I think that's what I'm going to, at least, I don't know about the other marks yet. I got to work that out. But I'm definitely going to stick with the rings in the dark areas. I think that actually kind of gives us a bit of a different feel than most of the stuff that I do. This area is going to be a nightmare. I can already tell just looking at it, I'm going, oh boy, that's going to be probably a whole stream just in itself. But I like this skull. This skull is eventually going to get used. I don't know if I showed this off, but this is the beginnings of the piece. I mean, this is obviously very rough, but this is, you can see the skull's right there. This will eventually be some kind of arcane occult type thing. The hand will be, I promise, much improved, because that is not a good hand at the moment, but it's just kind of outlining, because I was trying to identify the circles and how things are going to be laid out. And it will probably end up being rotated. I don't know. I don't know yet. I might leave it like that. Not the hand. The hand's going to get improved on. But anyway, I think this is a good place to bring this stream to a close. But yeah, so we'll jump back into this. And you can see here, I don't know if that was obvious or not. I'm kind of reformatting the images like this for like sticker shapes, like shirt shapes, because the actual original artwork, which is this, not really something I want to see on a shirt. I think I talked about this before, but But anyway, I'm working on those. And where's the other ones? There's other ones down here. So there's Lagomos is done pretty much. So I had to really redo that one because the Lagomos is completely different. That's the actual artwork. I took the creatures out, took the mountains in the background, all the smoke out, and really revamped it so it's more of a self-contained image. Changed the color of the halos so that I could do those kind of fiery background stuff. So, yeah. And now I'm in the middle of doing Ignia, which... Where's Ignia's down here? Or, sorry, Elos, not Ignia. So this one is another one where I'm basically redrawing 30% of it because it just won't work to try to repackage what's there. But anyway, it's going, so we'll see. Probably do one of those on the stream so you can kind of see what that process is like. But in any event, the skull is where we'll leave off here. So, as always, appreciate people stopping by to drop in, even if it's for a short time, because, hey, I'm always appreciative when people stop by, because, yeah, I like doing this stuff. I think it's fun. I never really would have considered myself a streamer years ago, and I still really don't, but I do enjoy this, and it's nice that people seem to actually like watching it, and that's great, because I'm all for having people stop by and enjoy artwork. Art is a beautiful thing. The creative process, it's magnificent. I mean, it's not always sunshine and rainbows and fun, but it is such a rewarding and rich thing, and it just... I wish everybody had some kind of positive creative outlet. I think this is going to sound like a hippy-dippy thing, and I guess it is. But I really wonder how much better off all of us would be if we had some kind of, whether it's our visual art or music or writing or whatever, if everybody really dedicated some amount of their time to a creative outlet. I would hope that would be a positive thing for everybody. So that's what I mean about I appreciate people coming by. Because even if it is voyeuristically, is that what the word is? No, vicariously. Even if you are vicariously being voyeuristically, that's something very different. But even if it is a vicarious enjoyment of art, then I'm glad that you're getting something out of it. So anyway, like I said, probably going to do a stream or two over the next few days, if not a few more. Just depends on how the time works out. But outside of that, wherever and whenever you are, have a wonderful rest of whatever it is for you. And we'll talk to you again on the next stream. All right? Take care.